Welcome back to this podcast. I am Philippe Boulanger. In episode 2, Dylan, we turned solid data foundations into AI that actually works. Fewer hallucinations, smarter scale, and wins you can ship next quarter. So let's dive in. Why does AI seem to be the best companion for using data?
Nothing has revolutionized data like AI has. I mean, if you look back 10 to 15 years, to use data and analytics or machine learning, you need to know how to code, you need to know R or Python or SQL or maybe Excel as well. I mean, we can call Excel data analytics and such as well. But AI has really enabled and democratized data across the world. People can really see the value of what data brings and they can interact with it in ways that they couldn't before. And I think that is in and of itself a huge shift in how data analytics works. Of course, this means that people are thinking AI can do a lot more than it can, and that comes with its own issues. But AI is really the true democratizer of data in today's world, and that will only continue to progress. I mean, to give an unrelated example, my wife now uses ChatGPT all the time, and she now sees the value of AI in data, whereas before she never used it. I couldn't even find her on Excel. So it really does show that people are taking these things up and using it and becoming more data-driven with AI if it's presented in the right way, if it gives them the right data, and if they're able to figure out and trust the data that is behind the AI.
What would be the best data to feed AI, Dylan?
A lot of people mention unstructured data because AI will feed in tons and tons of data, for example, across the internet, emails, social media posts, all that stuff, and build its own context. And by building its own context, it creates a model that can look at anything and deduce what is being said. If you're a company, you're not going to build a model that will rival OpenAI or Anthropic. You're going to need to focus a lot smaller and look at your structured data internally, because that structured data is actually your IP. That's your competitive advantage. And that data provides you a lot of information that makes your AI much more accurate. The thing with unstructured data and with AI that you go out and use on a daily basis, like ChatGPT or Cloud, it can give you hallucinations. It might not have the right context. It might not even answer the question in the right way. And what you need to do as a company and an organization is see what are the limitations of what is open source and how do we add on top of that with all of our treasure trove of internal data. And how do we structure it in a way that an AI bot or something we build internally can use that data to deliver insights that our teams can use to make better decisions. I think that is the next step. And that's where a lot of companies are focusing their time and effort. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of work. And it takes work not only because you need to build contextual models from AI, but also because a lot of the data that's underpinning that is of poor quality or isn't structured properly. It might sit in an offline Excel sheet, for example, or it might sit in a person's head. How do you actually draw that out and how do you use it to make effective decisions and build a model that's contextually smarter?
Why is data quality such a challenge when it comes to new AI solutions?
Where do we start? I think, honestly, it just goes back to a lot of things within the organization and how it's run.
Yeah.
I'll start with kind of looking back. Data quality has been a challenge in organizations for decades, if not longer. And that is mostly because people don't have the processes to input the data correctly or manage the data correctly. And that lack of process has just continued over time, even as companies have added more data. And without that perspective of, oh, we need to invest in our data quality, you're not going to have the foundations there that will enable AI. Building on that, you have a lot of data debt. And data debt is kind of like technical debt. We talk about tech debt a lot, where you kind of have a system that's 50 years old, but you still have to run and use that system to make your business function. Data debt is the same thing, but in the data terms. So you have data that probably someone from finance manually spends 3 hours on every week to manipulate it in a certain way. And that's how they've been running reports for 15 years. And the problem is they can't replicate that because it rests in someone's head or it's never been invested in to replicate. And that's kind of where data debt sits, where a lot of data that is used in the organization is manually manipulated or doesn't have the same quality that it needs to be used in today's world. And so organizations are constantly dealing with that. And building on the data debt is then how you use and trust those AI solutions. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, we've got this new tool, it will do X, let's go use it. As an executive, you're like, let's go. Our people are going to use it. It's a great investment. It's going to deliver huge ROI. As the person using it, you weren't consulted on that process. You don't know what's gone into this AI tool and you don't trust it. And so people stop using it and they go back to their old methods. So when data quality isn't aligned with how people use data in the organization, the AI solution tends to fall flat.
How does data quality become a competitive advantage for AI?
The first thing is it creates a foundation, right? And that foundation needs to be built on for your analytical models, for your AI tools and solutions, or for just accessing it by certain people. So data quality, if structured in the right way, if modeled in the right way, if it's accessible and that data teams, then they have the ability to draw insights off of it. You have the ability to build tools on it and make it scalable. Today, what we see is because of poor data quality, people will spend a lot of time building one tool, but it's not connected to anything else. So the data quality in that tool might be good, but across the board, it is not good enough to enable the organization to scale and to build more with new AI tools or with different analytics. And it becomes a single siloed model that then deteriorates over time because it's not maintained and such like that. So that's the first bit. The second bit to that is trust and access. In the end, you build data and AI tools for people to use. And to do that, they have to trust those tools. And the nature of how these AI tools are built lacks transparency. And a lot of companies just build a tool and expect you to use it without people who are using it understanding how it works. And so when you establish the data quality, you then kind of build the trust in people that, okay, you know what? I don't really understand how that tool works, and I'm not going to because I'm a marketing lead or I'm a salesperson, but I trust the data that underpins it so I can trust the outputs. Whereas today, what you're getting is people are trying to understand how AI works. They don't because it's very complex and very difficult, but they also don't trust the data under it. So they don't trust anything, or they trust it all and the AI outputs the wrong things because the quality isn't there. So in the end, I think data quality is a competitive advantage in as much as you want AI to be a competitive advantage. If you want to build your business in an AI-driven world, you need to make sure the quality underpins it to allow you to drive that value and be the competitive advantage.
How can AI help with data quality?
So AI can help in a lot of ways. And a lot of the use cases I'm starting to work with across organizations tend to actually start with improving the data quality. For example, I'm working with a French retailer on a Gen AI strategy. And a lot of the top use cases coming out of this tend to be around product harmonization, process improvement, and ensuring data works across retail brands and different departments of the business. This is a common issue in retailers because there's thousands of products, different sizes, different locations, different descriptions based off of regulations. So how do you kind of create efficiencies in that process? And Gen AI can do that because it can look at all the past products and create a new description, for example, if you need to tweak it because of new laws or regulations, or if you change the pack size, how do you tweak it? And AI allows you to do that instantaneously without the errors that come with a person doing that over and over again. I mean, I think from a data quality perspective, it also helps in a number of other ways too. A lot of it comes down to how you look at data quality and understand where there are breaks. So a big problem in a lot of companies is duplication of data. AI can understand, oh, there's 2 entries with my name, Dylan Anderson, at the same address, but they have different phone numbers. How do we improve that information and get rid of the bad data? And AI can really help identify those situations and correct for those situations. Anomaly detection is another core facet for data quality improvement with AI. We're seeing a lot of data quality tools and technologies use AI-driven anomaly detection nowadays. What it does is it looks for outliers and it adds business context to those outliers so that it's not a manual job of being like, oh, that's why we had a lot of sales on Black Friday. A normal data anomaly observability tool might not detect that, but an AI-driven one will detect it and add context to it saying, okay, in late November every year, it's Black Friday. So we will see this outlier in sales. And so AI is now able to really understand why things shift, especially as you feed it new information. I'm going to give another example of where it can help is descriptions. One of the biggest problems in data today, as we've mentioned and talked about, is data access and people not understanding what's in the data that they use or where it exists in the organization. And AI can help create and democratize the data domains, the data assets, the data tables within an organization, putting documentation that people can look for, access, or ask about, and therefore understand the data better. Because that's one of the biggest problems that we've seen over the past 20 years is data and tech people building models, building products, but not really doing anything with documentation. Like, it takes a lot of time, it's tedious, they don't want to do that. So now with AI, you can kind of create documentation a lot easier, and you can create it in the voice of the business so that people actually understand what they're reading instead of tech jargon and model names that are like final model underscore segmentation underscore final. And it's just about kind of creating and bridging that gap that much more. And technology will play a huge role in that in the future. AI-driven data quality is dependent on how those technologies and tools evolve and address those concerns and issues that people are currently having with data quality.
So what can you improve on your existing processes to get productivity, quality of work, or quality of life in your work? So this is the first question. So related to what you said, what would be the data quality aspect in that?
I love that question. I mean, first of all, it focuses in on what's important and what do you need to prioritize. I think from a data quality perspective, it really comes back to how does data quality within your organization drive what's important and really improve upon that. And I think that is something that organizations don't ask themselves enough. They talk about what's important from a strategic perspective, but then they jump to the value add or the sexy use case for AI. They don't think about kind of how do you get to that use case? How do you get to that new solution with the data quality that you have? And how do you improve on your data quality to get there? And I think it's kind of, similar to life, right? Everyone wants to jump to that high paying job, or they want to jump to being the best at a hobby that they might have. But it's the journey to get there. And in data, the journey to get there is not just building the model for AI or building the tools to do it. It's also improving the data quality to enable those tools. What are the enablers within that? And I think answering that question is something that a lot of organizations are starting to do now with AI tools failing and them not getting the return on investment from their strategic priorities in the data and AI space. I don't know, are you seeing the same thing? Like, how do you...
Yeah.
What's your experience with different companies and using that type of stuff?
So typically where I see companies failing is when they are not clear about their initial vision and strategy. So this is first point. So what is meaningful for their business or not? So the first question I have, which was that one, is the first one to consider. Then I have a second question. What can I do now with AI and data that I couldn't do before?
Yeah, and I love that too, because we talk about foundations and we talk about data quality, but the problem with foundations and data quality is it does take time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of investment. And if you do it for too long, people are going to be like, okay, you know what? We invest in all this, but we're not seeing any value from it. And you lose the person in the process. You lose the executive. You lose your funding. So you do 50 to 60% of the job, but then no one is seeing any value from it, and that goes out the window. I think what you're mentioning and what you're alluding to is what are those quick wins? What can we build in a very efficient way to get value immediately? And part of that is just looking, okay, what data is actually of good quality within our organization? What's the effort and the feasibility of actually spinning this tool up? And I think by assessing it in a holistic pattern, so your first question and your second question, where is your strategic priorities? And then underpinning that, where are we able to get some quick wins? You can actually start to see value a lot. And whenever I work with clients on a data strategy, that comes first and foremost is, okay, we've built this plan, but now we need to make sure it's tangible and realistic and that you're delivering value right away. So here are some value milestones. Here are the use cases you focus on to get quick wins. And here are some use cases that you're focusing on from a long-term strategic perspective. And I think just breaking it down and setting that out in a plan with resources against it, with owners against it, is crucial to actually seeing value from your data and AI adventures.
Okay, so basically you've got two kinds of projects. You've got the traditional projects and the effectual projects. Traditional is, you know what, I give you an objective and you need to get the resources in order to match the objective. And this is where people are saying, I need more money, I need more people, I need more data, okay? Which is not going in the right way based on what we discussed. The effectual way is, I have data, I have some skills around me. What are the best objectives I can get from this existing data and existing skills? So the big difference between the traditional and effectual is the one. In the first case, you need to get more budget and more data and more people, and you might never have them. In the second case, you can make instant decisions based on what you have already. So it's fast, it's effective, and it works every time. So this is the key point I'm addressing today with people who wanted to use AI, which is, what kind of data do you already have?
Yeah, and I think that's a question, and that is a great way of framing it for executives today, because they
Yeah.
are like, especially data teams, data heads want to take that first approach and they want to ask for more budget, and they always think they're strapped for time and budget and resources. But in reality, they have done a lot and they have a lot at their disposal. And they have to prove that what they can do with that amount before they can get more of those other things. So I think it's a combination of both, and approaching it in that way where, you have what you want to achieve set out, but you start with what you have to get there. And then you make that effectual realm or ring a bit bigger as you deliver on things and prove the value. And I think that approach, it just makes it more tangible and realistic and honestly more business led. And I think data leaders need to think with that more business led perspective if they want to achieve their goals.
Across both episodes, Dylan made one thing crystal clear. Data quality isn't a side quest. It is the main plot. If your information is unstructured, reliable, and shared, every downstream initiative, from dashboards to digital twins to AI, will underperform. In episode 2, we flipped the lens to AI. The promise is real. AI can finally democratize insight, but it performs to the level of your inputs. And as Dylan framed it, most companies carry data quality debt. So the ones who pay down unlock a durable competitive edge. AI can even help you get there faster by harmonizing messy records and amplifying the people and processes that already work. So here is your playbook coming out of this series. 1. Standardize the essentials. Definitions, taxonomies, quality rules. 2. Stand up governance with teeth. 3. Sequence a handful of use cases that prove value in weeks, not years. 4. Operationalize trust with a single source of truth. And 5. Pair that foundation with targeted AI where it can reduce toil and sharpen decisions.